Hello, 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 my lovelies. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Miss Lillian's page. I am Crysta from Litter to Glitter, and I am here today. Well, what can I say? I've had my first infusion, and I am feeling so much better. And you might see some vitality in me again, and I am so glad to have it, and I'll take it. So, how do you display your skulls? It's a question. Had to ask. Had to ask. Um, my husband was raised in a my husband's father's from Mexico. His mother is English. And so he is Chicano. And uh, his father passed away a few years ago. Um, and ever since then, he has this fascination for skulls. And, the Day of the Dead is very big in their culture. And so my husband has a collection of skulls. Well, we have skulls, crosses, that kind of thing for the Day of the Dead. Hey, Anne. So we have a collection of skulls, crosses, things of that nature. And my husband, we went to it was called the Urban Flea in Garland, Texas, a couple of weeks ago. And the lady there sells skulls. And so Shorty says, I needed a skull for me and to pick one out. And there was this really cute one. And I know skulls are cute, but it's this, and it's got the crystals in. And so this is where this one is going to live, in this little chocolate cabinet. And so you can see it's a very small display cabinet. Now, the reason I have put a little bit, this is where this is going to live. And my husband is going to put LED lights up underneath. Let me get you guys so you can see up underneath inside, so light will be shown on. And I am painting this. The base coat is going to be in wisteria. That's just the base coat, because there's a lot of stuff I'm going to be doing through this tiny little cabinet, but a lot's going to happen to it. So I wanted to show you, if you can see even just this little bit of paint, you can see that skull a lot better than if I flip you around to the back. Yes, I've got it on my spinny. I love my spinny. It's so much harder to see this because the wood is so dark. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to lighten up this cabinet with wisteria. And then I am going to use, I've got Miss Lillian's Texture Magic. And what Texture Magic is let me open it up. It is a powder additive for your paint. And see the little powder additive in there. And what that does is that this will allow you mix it in with your paint, and it gives you that chunky monkey texture. And so what I like to do before I use Texture Magic is I like to put down a base of the same color that I'm going to be using the texture in. It's just like when I do any other finishes. I like a light coat of paint underneath of it. That way, if I miss a spot with my texture, I don't have to sit there and kind of get chunky in areas that I might not want chunky in. So and I've got some of the wisteria already in a bowl. And so once I get done with the base coat, and I am going to paint the interior of this as well, not on camera today, but I will get to it before our next video. Also, this little cabinet, oh, I love this little cabinet. We picked this up at a show this weekend. It also has a tray that goes on the top. And I did put kind of a quick coat on this. And so it's like a kidney bean shape. So this is the top, that the little tray sits right in top of this little cabinet like this. And so I love that. How cute is that little cabinet? I love it. So we're going to do this, take this off, because I will paint this. I will paint the sides. I will get all up in here. I will paint the top as well. So if we take this off, the top in here is painted as well. And so that's what we're doing. We're just doing the base coat of the wisteria. I am using a small brush, just because this is a small cabinet. I don't need one of my big, huge brushes. So this would be perfect for any of your art brushes, smaller art brushes. And I am using, this is an infinity brush. This is a natural tip brush, because what else that I'm going to be doing to this cabinet is I am going to be doing all sorts of stuff to it. I plan on using some glazes, some of the gilding jewels. I might even hit it with some patina in some areas because this is where my skull is going to live. So you can see because it's already lightening it up. I'm not worried about hitting the glass. I can always go back with my razor and hit those areas to get it off of the glass. So I'm not worried. I didn't worry about taping it off. Well, because I'm lazy and I admit it. And it would be it would probably be easier on the cleanup side if I were to go ahead and tape off the little glass. But I've got a little mirror or a little razor that I can very easily scrape that off with. So that's what I chose to do. And I love it. Hey, Delania. She said, that's a cool little display cabinet. Is there a particular name? This is called a chocolate cabinet. And so these cabinets were very popular, a chocolate cabinet. They would put pastries, chocolates in them in some of the homes. And then they would use, no, I'm trying to take the top off like the trays up there. Good morning. So they had these trays that sat on the top. And so what they would do is they would take the pastry, the chocolate, the sweets, something like that. They would put them on top. And then you had your tray that you could sit in your lap or you could serve it with. And so these are called chocolate cabinets, and they're in a kidney bean shape. And so, believe it or not, we found this at a doll show this weekend. We went to a doll and toy show, and we picked this up for $45. I'm going to be real honest. We paid $45 for this cabinet, and I should have been wearing a mask and have a gun because it was definitely a steal at $45 because it is in pristine condition. And it is definitely a antique. It's not vintage. This is an antique. I would probably put this at probably 1910s, not the early 900s, 1910. At the very latest, this is probably 1920s. And so for $45. And so the lady at the show had some miniature dolls in it. And we saw it and we asked her if it was for sale because I didn't know if it was part of her display. And she says, well, I'd sell it. And she said, make me an offer. And I thought that she was going to tell me to go take a hike when I, offered her, I think, she said, I'd like to get, I think 75 or something for it. And I thought she was going to tell me to go away when I asked if she would accept 45. And she says, well, will you do it cash? Because I don't want to run it through my credit card machine. And I looked over at my husband and he says, I got that. And so, because I just had my credit card and a little bristle came out. So he reached in his wallet and went ahead and paid her in cash. And we told her, because we were going to be walking around, we told her that we would come back at the end of the day so she didn't have to pull her dolls out. And we went back at the end of the day and picked it up. And so it was a great find. Now, see here, show you on the back side here. If you can see these details, and let me see if I can just go over the brush with a light and just kind of highlight them. So maybe you can see them easier. Y'all seeing those highlights? That's why I'm using this brush, is that I can get down into those, because I am going to be, like I said, I'm going to be using some texture magic on this. And that's why I like putting a base coat down, and because I don't want to have to kind of scrub that texture magic in. And I know that it's thin in places and y'all can see that. I'm going to have to go back with an art brush because this has the tack. You can see here, it has the tack. There's just little circles all the way around it. And so I will go back with an art brush and get for my base coat and get in between all of those little tack handles. And so right back here I will probably use something like this to get into the in between where the circles meet. And so that is the intricate part of something like this, is that you want to make sure that you get down into your crevices. And so when you're done, you don't have all of that brown showing in between. And that's, like I said, that's another reason I like to put a base coat on my projects. And also another reason I like to put a base coat on my projects is because what if you decide to go with the texture magic and you do it all over, but you mix the texture magic in the color you think you wanted the cabinet in, and then when you're done, you don't like the color. So then you'd have to paint over top of the texture magic, which is very easily done. I'm not saying it's impossible, but to me, this is easier. I will know when I knew as soon as I put some on the front that I was going to love this as the base color. And so I have no problems. But say I got halfway through it and says, nope, this is not the color that I want for the base of this. And I could always change it without having to mess with the texture as well. So to me, a smooth surface is easier than a texturized surface. And so when I'm definitely using texture magic, I like and when I'm blending, I always put a base coat on. And so I did clean this with First Step Prep, which is a deglosser, because I know it still looks really shiny, but it was amazingly, amazingly shiny when I first got it. And so it definitely knocked down a lot of the shine, as you know. But we do have beginners that watch us, and so I like to give out these tips. Chalk paint and really any paint works best the duller the surface. And so having a cleaner and a deglosser in one is really, really great. And it has saved, that deglosser has saved me so many times from not having to put a primer on my piece, because it'll knock that gloss down enough to where I don't have to use a primer. And Delania says, awesome find and a great deal. And she said, wow, that's a beauty. Thank you. So like I said, when we're done, my husband is going to put LED lights inside. And we are going to, this is where my skull is going to live, in one of our displays. So in the house. And honestly, this was my husband's idea. He saw it and he said, that's where my skull needs to live. And so we came in the studio last night when we got home. Many of you who follow me on my Litter to Glitter page knows that my husband paints as well with me. And so he hasn't had a lot of time recently to paint, but my husband is a gifted artist as well. He does very, very well. And what he doesn't know, he comes to me and goes, how do I do that? So it's one of the things that we enjoy doing, is coming in the studio together, and we cut up and we crank up the music and we dance and we paint. And sometimes he throws paint at me, which it happens, and I throw paint back, which, if you're going to throw paint at me, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to throw paint back. And so that's what we like doing together. It's one of our things. It's one of the things that we love doing. So we came in last night and pulled out a bunch of paint. As you can see, I've got my Miss Lillian's paint all up in my cabinet there. And so we pulled out probably 15 or so colors and tried to figure out which base color that we liked the best. And so that's what we did last night, was come in here and start planning out this piece. And like I said, we're going to be using some of the most amazing gilding jewels on them. Haven't decided on all the colors yet. And that's a great thing about this, is that you don't always, I have to let the piece talk to me for a little bit and tell me what it wants on it. And the way that I can see it going is, I was thinking about possibly, because I do want to play off of the blues and the purples and the pinks that are in the skull itself. And so let me get back around to the front. And like I said, I will be painting the interior as well, because we really want this to kind of pop. And so as you can see on this skull, it's got the silver here, and it's got pink and purple. And there's a little touch of green right down in here of crystals. And so that is what we are going to be playing off of when we're looking at this, at doing this cabinet. So just to show you guys where my color inspiration came from. And where did I set my brush? There it is. It's on my spinny cart. And so as I keep going around, oh, there's my Dr. Pepper. It's in my way. Yes, I've got all my good things on my spinny cart. I didn't realize that I was going to spin it around that far. And so I'm just using my brush. Let me get you guys down a little bit more so you can see. I'm using my brush and kind of just scrubbing in a circle, just a small circle. Let's see, or get you down just a little bit more. There you go. I'm scrubbing in just a little circle to get inside of those details. And that is the best way that I have found to get into these small details. And then I'll just take my brush and thin out over top of it. So does anyone else have a strange hobby or thing that they collect? Like I said, for my husband, the Day of the Dead in his culture is very big, and for his family. And so he collects skulls. So that's why I'm making one for this one. This one is by far my favorite. So that's why it's getting its own little box. We're gonna, I love just kind of working around the piece. And also what I will do, I'm not going to paint the very top of it. I will paint to like right here, you know, right in there. I'm not going to paint the very top because I will flip it upside down to get up underneath of these areas, because it's easier. Let me get you guys back a little bit. Flipping the cabinet, especially a small cabinet like this, upside down to get these underside pieces is a lot easier than you standing on your head to do it. Because for me to paint these under, to make sure I get all the stuff underneath, I would have to be painting like this. And that's not a comfortable way for me to be painting. So when I'm done with this base coat, I will flip it upside down, which also gives me a good way to do the legs, especially the back of the legs. Because instead of going like this, it would be easier for it to be upside down. And so I will be flipping this upside down. So I know that I'm missing some small areas at the top of the glass, which is fine, because I know that I will be going back, flipping this cabinet upside down and hitting those spots. I am all about whatever works and whatever is easiest. And I am not a contortionist. And so I just can't do that. I have to flip stuff upside down. I put them on spinny carts like the one that I have here. So I don't have to keep moving it around. And Sue is on with us. She says that's a beauty. Thank you, Sue. I really am falling in love with this cabinet. I thought my husband, well, I know my husband's insane, but I thought that he had really lost it when he said, let's get that cabinet. And then now it's really, really growing on me. None of the glass is broke. None of the glass is cracked. It looks to me like it's all original glass. It's got, everything is fit together really, really well. It's definitely one of those, this wasn't a mass-produced piece. This looks to me like it's handmade. I have not found any maker's marks on it or branding, so I can't tell you like who made it, but just from the craftsmanship that is in this, it is definitely a beauty, just an absolute beauty. So, hey, Sue, if you wouldn't mind, would you please share this over to Whiskey and Women, please? And so I'm going to get as much as the leg as I can see with it this way. And then when I turn it upside down, I will get the back of the legs. And I will also, at that point, get all the little spots up here at the top that maybe I did not get. So I'm just I'm just concerned with getting the areas that I can see in this position. And then when I flip it, I will get those areas that I didn't see because I will be seeing it from a different angle. And so again, I'm working it into the carvings that are in the wood because this is my base. I'm trying to get done with, you know, at least a pretty good base so I can show you guys texture magic. What I may do is work a little bit on this to get it to where I want it and then go live on my Litter to Glitter page, or I will work on it tomorrow night on the show Painting with Whiskey and Women. You can go over to my Litter to Glitter page and see more work on this tomorrow. I will definitely be working on this. And then I know that I want to show you guys the gilding jewels hopefully next week. I will have it to that point because I got in some absolutely beautiful new gilding jewels that I will be using on this cabinet. Ooh, that definitely lightens it up. And so it was so dark before that you really couldn't see what was in it unless it was a very, very light color. And since it's so small, it's not like a lot of light gets in there. And so, like I said, we're going to be installing LED lights. We're discussing, we're having a heated debate on whether or not we should drill a hole in it and install a powered light, or if we should be putting like the very flat LED strips in the top with a battery pack. So we are having a we're having yeah, we'll just say a educated heated argument or discussion. It's not an argument, it's a discussion. And so I do not want to have a hole drilled in this in any way, shape, or form. I want to go with the battery pack and the flat LEDs. And of course, my husband has power tools and he wants to use them. And so he wants to actually kind of like put a lighting kit in it and with a cord, a power cord. So we'll see who wins that battle. We agreed to disagree last night, and we decided that once we were done with the project, we would revisit it. And I'm hoping that by that time, he will see how much I love it just the way it is, and he will come around to my way of thinking and do the battery pack. So we will see. We shall see. And so like I said, I'm getting into the areas around. And like I said, this is just my base coat. I just want a thin coat. I know it's not a full coverage coat. I'm not looking for a full coverage coat because I am going to be using the Texture Magic on this. I am just using as my base coat. So when I put the Texture Magic on, I didn't even see. Oh, yeah. So this is a brass knob. I'm just going to take off because I'm going to polish that up, or I might change it. I haven't decided yet. But so I can hit the side of the door. And like I said, I will be painting the inside as well. And then I can hit this. Let me get my wisteria back over here. I moved it around on my spinny cart. So do y'all have anything odd that you collect? Like I said, for my husband, it's skulls. And people are like, you have skulls in your house? Yes, we have skulls in our house. So he wants a longhorn skull with the big horns on it. You know, we're in Texas, so that's one of his, but they are several $100s. And so I told him maybe for Christmas if he was a good boy. So he's been collecting smaller ones. Okay. So I tell you what, let me get up here, and then what I will do is I will put some Texture Magic in my paint and stir it up, and then I will show you what I mean by get the top of this door. There we go. And so you control your Texture Magic by how much of the medium you put in. You don't have to use a lot, which I'm not going to use a lot. I don't want a lot of texture. I just want a little bit of texture. So I'm going to use a little bit of Texture Magic on this. And you can see how dark that wood was. I mean, that is a very, very thin coat. And so you can see the great coverage. So Anne says that she loves that color. Well, and you should. It's the middle color on the doghouse we did for Sadie. So this is the middle color on the 3-color blend we did on the puppy house for Sadie. So, and it's got that beautiful glow to it. It's beautiful. I mean, it just has this beautiful glow about this color to me. You know, it's not a fluorescent. It's not a neon. It just has this really beautiful, inviting, warm glow to this light purple. And so, like I said, this color is called Wisteria. There we go. And so give me just a moment. I forgot a stir stick, but that's okay. I've got them sitting right here. I'm going to grab a stir stick real quick. And I am back, baby. So what we're going to do is I will back you up just a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. And see, I'm learning my lesson not to take my phone off my camera off of the tripod. And so this is the way that the Texture Magic comes, is in a can. And then I am just going to sprinkle. You can see it's the same paint that I use. I'm just going to sprinkle it in. Okay. And then I'm going to use my stir stick and stir that Texture Magic into the paint. And I did not use a lot because, like I said, I don't want a really thick texture. I just want a very mild texture. And then if I want more, I can always add more. If you put too much of it in, then you have to go back and add more paint. And that's a step I really don't want to do, is get into mixing paint and then mixing more Texture Magic and then paint and then more Texture Magic and then paint and then more Texture Magic. So I like to work slowly into it and just put a little bit of paint or a little bit of the Texture Magic into the paint at a time. And so it has gone from a creamy, smooth to, you can see now it's just got, you can see the texture in it now. It's just got a little bit of texture. And so you have two ways that you can apply this. And that is, one, you can either, you could either dapple it on, which I do want a little bit more texture. And so I think it's kind of like making a homemade recipe. You kind of decide, and oh, I want a little bit more sugar. I want a little bit more, you know, honey, whatever. And so I'm going to stir that up. You can either use a brush and you can brush it on, or my preferred method for texture is to kind of stipple it on. And so I like to stipple when I use Texture Magic. It's my preferred. And so there you go, babies. That went from creamy smooth to almost like brownie butter, brownie batter. And so let me get, well, let me show you. See if I can do this. On the stir stick, I just put a little bit of it with the Texture Magic on it. And I am going to kind of stipple it. And so from the side, you can see it's got a little bit of texture in it now. And so what I'm going to do is get you guys back up here and bring you in. And then since it looks like, yep, right on this side. So what I will do is I will dip my brush, and let me move because I don't want my paint to possibly drip. So everything's kind of on my spinny. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to take it and we're going to stipple it on in the areas that I want a little bit of the texture. And give it some love and some texture. And what I'm going to do is around these moldings or these carvings, I am brushing it because I do want a little bit of texture, but I want to be able to go in and hit those with the gilding jewel later. So I want to make sure I'm not filling that in. And see, now you've got some texture in that area. And that is again why I'm using the smaller brush instead of one of my big furniture painting brushes for this, is because I don't want the big, I needed a small brush because this is a small cabinet. It's beautiful and I love it. And so I'm just stippling, dipping and stippling, dipping and stippling with the Texture Magic in, which is going to give it this great texture. Making sure that I'm getting up there. And so I'm going to continue working on this chest for a few more hours today. And I will be working on it again tomorrow night on Painting with Whiskey and Women. And you guys will see it probably again 1 or 2 more times as I finish it up and use some glazes and some gilding jewels on this beautiful little chocolate cabinet. And I hope that you stick around and see the transformation on this. This is a really unique piece. You don't see these very often. And I haven't seen one in quite a while. So I was thrilled to pick this up. And so I appreciate it, guys. Like I said, I wanted to show you guys that. I will be back on the Miss Lillian's page next week, next Monday. So, Ma has joined us on YouTube. Hey, Ma. And Delaney says, I love your cabinet holding your Miss Lillian's paints. Thank you. That one is actually painted with Miss Lillian's paints. And it is done in the top, the hutch that you see is done with the neon metalsmith patinas. And the base, let me see if I can move this out the way, is done in Miss Lillian's neons as well on the base with my mermaids. And so let me tilt you guys down so you can see the base of the cabinet. And so an old china hutch. And so we turn that into a cabinet to hold my paint here in the studio. So that is what we're doing. So I will be back on the Miss Lillian's page next Monday at 2 Texas time, 3 Eastern, y'all. I will be on Glitter to Glitter page tomorrow night at 6 Texas time. That is 7 o'clock Eastern. And I will be working on this cabinet again next week. And Delaney says, I just love it. I have quite a few of those paints too. It's an addiction, girl, and I love it. And, you know, there's worse things I could be doing with my time. And I love my studio and I love painting. And yeah, it's a lot of ooey gooey goodness in the Miss Lillian's brand. It really, really is. So I will see you guys back here next week. I will be on Whiskey and Women tomorrow. Be back with you guys next week. And then I've got 1 more week. And then, well, 2 weeks from today, Sue Owens is flying to Texas from Tennessee. And so in 2 weeks, you will get to spend a week with me and her through our social media, being a little bit crazy. So stay tuned for that. Much love, you guys.